It began as a run-of-the-mill judicial review, or so it seemed. What was intended to be a pretty low-key High Court inquiry into presumed exercises of executive power by the presidency suddenly took an abrupt, almost film-like turn when sealed files were anonymously produced before the bench. These were not run-of-the-mill papers. Sources say they included transcripts, internal emails, and testimony of witnesses, proof pointing towards a highly coordinated underground effort by insiders in the law, whistleblowers, and even previous ANC members themselves. Theirs was a clear objective, to bring out the complete extent of corruption connected to President Cyril Ramaphosa and strategically topple his grip on state institutions. Court staff was stunned, and the judge stopped proceedings for hours immediately to verify the documents. Phones rang, lawyers murmured in shock, and when the court resumed, what faced them was nothing short of a judicial bombshell. At the heart of it was a secret plan codenamed Project Sunrise. It had supposedly been making the rounds among top-level dissidents for months, possibly years. The leaked strategy paper portrayed Ramaphosa not as a reformer but, in the language of those who instigated it, a constitutional abuser shrouded in reformist rhetoric. From leaks on the court hearing, Project Sunrise was supposedly broken down into phases: the initial step to unveil financial discrepancies, clean paths of money transacting accounts that were unaccountable; the second to underscore power abuses, moments in which executive power had been manipulated for personal or political ends; the third to demonstrate collusion in state capture, Ramaphosa's suspected involvement in shielding allies accused of corruption; and lastly, the most perilous move: to file criminal charges against the incumbent president not only in South Africa but by means of international legal mechanisms able to circumvent domestic political immunity. This was no fantasizing. Behind the scheme, insiders say, were some of the ANC's most senior past heavyweights, men and women who had previously stood up for the party but had become disenchanted with what they characterize as the moral degeneration of a once great liberation movement. Couple that with an infrastructure of attorneys with access to sensitive documents and back-channel messages, and you have what appears to be a ticking political time bomb. Sources indicate the evidence consists of clandestine financial networks linked to global assets, clandestine messages between top ANC cabinet members, and clandestine offshore summits where plans were purportedly hatched to safeguard the president. Altogether, the accusations point towards institutionalized corruption on a scale far higher than what the public has historically witnessed or inferred. When asked for comment, Ramaphosa's spokesman hastily dismissed the allegations as dangerous fiction aimed at distracting from progress. Legal analysts are not so dismissive. The fact that the court accepted the documents as evidence already means the judiciary is convinced the material is worthy of close scrutiny. That is to say, this is no conspiracy theory, and political repercussions are now beginning to be seen. Rumblings in Parliament indicate even ANC loyalists are getting agitated. Ramaphosa's tactics of silence and denial appear to protect him for months, but with polls around the corner and outrage levels at a record high, insiders are starting to disown their colleagues. Some apparently are positioning themselves to save themselves before the ship goes down. If criminal charges result from these hearings, the president may be subjected to the ultimate test of his political career, bowed under pressure to resign, or worse, facing the danger of being put under arrest. The timing could not be more unfortunate for the ANC. Already plagued with factional fighting and embattled by graft scandals, the party now finds itself confronted with a crisis that can finally crack its image. The High Court expose has thrown petrol on an already blazing fire. Reports from within the ANC verify increasing unrest. Fel Malula, Secretary-General of the party, is said to have stormed out of a recent NEC meeting after getting into a disagreement with colleagues about how to deal with the scandal. There are rumors circulating that Gad Mantashe, formerly among Ramaphosa's closest allies, is secretly contemplating moving out of the president's inner circle entirely, perhaps to save his own political life. At the same time, the opposition senses blood in the water. DA leaders, EFF leaders, and Action SA leaders are circling like sharks, seeing their chance to call for complete transparency. They have threatened to take the streets en masse if impeachment processes are not initiated at once. Helen posted tellingly on Twitter, "The rule of law must prevail. No one is above the Constitution, not even the President." For many South Africans, the vision of Ramaphosa as reformer, a figure of stabilization who came to sweep away the Zuma mess, is disintegrating. Left is a bleaker picture of a leader who is accused of being complicit in the very corruption he promised to sweep away. The narrative is in tatters, supplanted by a litany of damning exposure that cuts into the very heart of the ANC, and the stakes are huge. Over the next few weeks, the court will publish further details of Project Sunrise. With each new revelation, the ANC could be further undermined, and by the end of the year, the South African political landscape will be almost unrecognizable. If Ramaphosa is implicated directly, the ANC will have a brutal choice, to defend him and go down with him or to leave him in the lurch and perhaps split the party irrevocably. Either cause has existential stakes. The ANC has dominated South African politics for decades, but now that dominance appears to be unsteady. The DA is attempting to position itself as the reliable hand of reform. The EFF is rallying thousands in the streets, directing anger and frustration. Action SA is stealthily winning over young voters who are disenchanted with both the ANC and old opposition. The political ground under the country's system is moving fast, and the center of gravity could soon slide away from the ANC entirely. But even outside of politics, the Supreme Court is the final battleground. This is where the paperwork will be examined, where witnesses will be called to testify, where truth will have to be established and justice served. And let there be no doubt, this is not simply a matter of one man or even one party. It is a matter of the future of South Africa itself. Will the nation stand by and let its institutions be taken over by corruption? Or will it be the time when accountability finally sets in? Will Project Sunrise go down in history as the start of a new era or be talked about as just another of a series of scandals? For now, at least one thing is clear, the fireworks are far from finished. So here's the question, do you think President Ramaphosa ought to resign? Is this the end of ANC domination or merely another installment in South Africa's long, complicated political history? Share your thoughts with us in the comments.